Welcome to today's lecture, the live learning lecture for the School Leaders Program 2026. For the School Leaders 2026, we have an important guest here with us, Dr. Laureen Adams. Yesterday, we had a powerful session on innovative leadership, and then we had a discourse on how to be innovative in areas of technology, in areas of programs, partnerships in schools, and so on. And of course, to further strengthen that lecture, Dr. Adams will be looking at AI for school leadership as part of one way to be innovative in your school as a leader. Permit me to quickly talk about Dr. Adams. Dr. Adams is a distinguished educational leader with 2 decades of experience spanning both international and US education contexts. Throughout her career, she has served as a classroom teacher, a school and district leader, instructional coach, curriculum designer, and professor, and currently serves as the executive director of Ghana ASCD. Our practice is defined by a unique skill set anchored in design thinking and laboratory practice. This foundation informs our expertise in several areas, co-creating powerful professional learning experiences for educators, shaping innovative learner-centered curricula, such as project-based learning and performance assessment, and coaching leaders and supporting learning communities to drive impactful, equitable change. Dr. Laureen collaborates with schools and organizations to design loving, responsive, and critical systems that ultimately create thriving learner-centered ecosystem. She is committed to supporting school leaders as they navigate adaptive challenges and learn to lead with both clarity and care. Dr. Adams holds a PhD in education with emphasis in teaching, learning, and culture, as well as African Studies certificate, both from Claremont Graduate University, where she currently serves as a research fellow. With a clapping ovation, help me welcome Dr. Laureen Adams. You are welcome, ma'am.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Good evening, everyone. I'm very happy to be here with you all. And I'd like to start by saying we will be doing some work together. So if you have a device with you that you're able to easily type into, I suggest you bring that or open it. But we're going to create some things in our short time together. So let's go ahead and get started. Mr. Adeola was very generous in helping me outline this session. He told me exactly what he wanted to cover, and I think it's going to be very useful and powerful. So we're focusing in on AI for school leadership, and the goal is to really support school leaders to lead the ethical, underline ethical, and equitable integration of AI in schools. We have a little less than 90 minutes together. We're going to go through 4 topics or modules, and then hopefully by the end of our time together, you will create a proposal. So in my introduction, Mr. Adeola mentioned that I work with an organization called Ghana ASCD. So yes, I'm your neighbor over here. I'm based in Accra, and I just want to share a little bit about what we do. We're a professional learning organization that supports educators at all levels, from classroom teachers to district and regional directors. And we work with the Ministry of Education to deliver high-quality programs. And we are growing our Pan-African footprint by strengthening our collaborations with countries across the continent, and hope to do that more and more. 3 of the big programs that we offer that we are known for are our International Educator Summit. We've had that the last 2 years, bringing together more than 15 countries to share best practices in education. This year, we're hosting a national educators conference to really focus on Ghanaian educators. And we're also working in partnership with the University of Ghana to talk about women in educational leadership. So those are our three big initiatives or programs, in addition to working a lot in the EdTech space and AI space and partnering with African EdTech innovators to really scale our impact across the continent. So before we get started, I'm curious to hear, and I'm going to give you a few seconds to think about it. If this scenario were to happen, who would you hold responsible or accountable for this? So if one of your teachers used an AI tool to generate a complete lesson plan and they didn't review it, and then a student later flagged a factual error, who would you hold responsible? Is that a teacher issue, a leader issue, the AI company, or all three? You can put your answer in the chat or you can raise your hand if you feel ready to share. Okay, we say the teacher is responsible. Thank you for sharing, Henrietta. The leader, is it Taku? Is that how you pronounce? Anyone else? All right. So I think both answers are correct and for different reasons. And hopefully, as we navigate our session together, you'll come to understand why I think it's actually all three. But there's two things that we can actually build for around accountability, and that's what we as leaders do and what our teachers do, right? When we have clear systems for how we're integrating AI. So by the end of our session, the aim is that you'll identify a few AI tools that are relevant to your role, that you will understand how AI supports assessment and learning analytics. You will apply an ethical framework to AI decisions in your school context. Again, I can't underscore that one enough. And time permitting, you'll draft a concrete first step toward AI integration in your school. And if you've already started with AI integration, you can just continue to build on that or think about how you would revise your current integration plan. So we just did a little bit of the welcome and framing. Our modules are around AI tools, AI and assessment and analytics, ethics and equity in AI, and then preparing your school, where you'll do a little assessment about your readiness. And then you'll have some time to work on your proposal and we can share out. Okay. All right. So AI is kind of all the rage. And I think sometimes it feels scary and overwhelming. And sometimes we're not always sure what it means in relation to our work in schools. So what's important to know is that AI can perform some of the tasks that require human intelligence. I don't want to give AI credit that it can do everything, but it can help with pattern recognition, text generation, like creating reports, emails, and so on, recommendations, and it can make predictions. In schools, the way we might be seeing this are with some of the ed tech tools that we're using. So that have adaptive platforms. Those could be assessments that change questions based on a student's answer to really assess what level they're at. Automated grading programs, our dashboards, and content generation. So again, content generation can be flyers or communications we create to send out to our school community. It could be emails. It could be agendas, reports, and so on. And for leaders, some things to really keep in mind is that it is a tool. It is not a teacher and it is not a decision maker, right? You as a leader set the vision and the policy. AI only does what you tell it to do and nothing more, right? And it's not smarter than you. So we should always make sure we don't give AI more credit than it's due. So before we start with this activity, I want to share the tool that you all will be using. And it's going to ask you to make a copy. And that's so that you can have your own copy to work in. So I just put it in the chat. And when you open it, it should look like this. It says copy. And then you make a copy. And this is your workbook for our session today to kind of track your thinking and take notes on what you feel is important, okay? So I want everyone to go ahead and do that, make a copy of that document before I go over this next piece. And when you're ready, if you could put a thumbs up in the emoji, that would be helpful. Does anyone need help opening up the workbook, or are we okay to move forward? All right. I'm assuming we're okay to move
Access,
forward.
is there
Oh,
an
yes.
access code?
No, you should just make a copy. Did you see how when I opened it, the link up, it said make a copy and I clicked copy?
Okay. Mine is just asking requests. Is showing me viewer, commenter, editor. I don't know.
Okay, let me try to show you one more time. So when I just clicked on this from the chat, and this is the screen that opens up. Does this show up for you?
No, it didn't show up like this.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. We'll share it a different way, but you'll still have to make a copy. So let me do it like this. So I'm sharing this version and then you'll have to make a copy so you can edit it. See if that works. I'm not sure why I did that.
Okay. I think it's, yes,
Great.
it
Great.
opened.
So that you're able to type into it, just see what I'm doing here over on file and click make a copy. And then it should open up.
It has already opened up.
Make a copy, you're able to type in it. So I just shared a viewer.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can only view the one I shared.
Okay. I should go to file,
Mm-hmm.
a
And
copy.
make a copy. Yeah, and then you can go ahead and type right into that one.
A copy. Okay.
Okay, great. I'm glad we figured it out.
Mhm.
Okay, so if you are in your workbook, we're on page 2 here, and this is just for you to take notes if you want to about these different tools. So I'm sharing some of the tools that I like to use, and that others like as well. Some are free and some might have a subscription attached if you want more support. So the first one is Gemini, that's Google Gemini, and I'm going to demonstrate using that one in just a minute. And Claude, both have free options, and both have subscription options if you want to use it to do a lot of work for you. So these two GPTs support with text generation and drafting. They're similar to, but I think better than Chat GPT. You can use these for staff communications, for creating agendas, for summaries and policies, reports, all of those things. So it's a really great tool to help you do a lot of writing if you don't have time to do that. The next one is Canva and AI. Canva, AI, and Magic Write. Canva is a site where you can create flyers, logos, promotional materials. You can create slide decks, and they have an AI component that they're constantly iterating where you can describe the design you want and it will generate it for you. So it makes communications really beautiful. So things you want to send to parents, your newsletters, and so on. And it's free for educators. So Canva is a free resource for educators. So you should definitely sign up for that if you don't have it yet. Google Workspace AI, I use Google Suite for everything, but they also have an integrated AI component that helps with automatically drafting things for you, for summarizing and also analyzing data. I like to use the Google Forms to do surveys, and their AI component helps you analyze survey data. Conmigo is from Khan Academy, which is a free resource to support. Khan Academy can support teachers and students around different subject areas, but Conmigo is really to help with teacher planning support. So your staff can use it as a PD tool. And then I'm not as familiar with Power BI and Looker Studio, but they were recommended as data dashboards that can help you look at attendance and performance. And some of us who run private schools, enrollment trends, which is really important as well. Okay. So those are some tools you can use. There are so many, and I feel like new ones come out all of the time. But I can definitely speak to the first three I use almost on a daily basis, and it has definitely streamlined my work and helped to create things much faster than I could do if I was not using AI support. All right. So I want us to just look at what a tool like, I'm going to use Google Gemini, shows when you prompt it, okay? So again, this is for text generation. And the prompt we're going to give Google Gemini is, you are an experienced school principal in Nigeria. Write a 3-sentence message to parents explaining why our school is piloting AI tools in the classroom and how we will protect student data. So that is what we're asking AI to do for us, okay? So I already put it in here. This is Gemini. It's again free. You can upgrade and pay a subscription if you want, but there is a free version of it. So this is the prompt. Let's see what it tells us. All right, it says we are piloting AI tools to enhance personalized learning and ensure our students remain globally competitive in a rapidly evolving digital landscape. To safeguard our children, we have implemented rigorous data encryption and strict privacy protocols that ensure no student's personal information is shared with external parties. Our dedicated staff will provide constant oversight to ensure these technologies are used ethically and solely to support your child's academic growth. So that's what it generated in like 1 second as something you could communicate to parents. Now let's kind of reflect on what it said. What do you think it did well? In that 3-sentence message, what did it do well? I'll go back to sharing it so you can see this highlighted part. As a school leader, would you send something like this out to your parents and school community? Yes or no? And if no, what would you change? No? Okay, why wouldn't you? What would you change before you put it out? You can unmute if you're able to.
Okay, good evening. I'm going to change we are piloting AI tools to enhance personalized learning. So I'm instead going to say we are going to ensure our students remain globally competitive in the rapidly evolving digital landscape.
Okay, so you would omit the first part and just start with we are going to ensure. Is that what I understood? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you for that. So I like that you pointed that out because here's the thing. The more you prompt in Gemini or Claude or chat, the more it gets used to the kind of writing tone or voice that you like. So one thing you can do is share a sample communication you sent out and then ask it to write in that same voice, but you just tell it what content to put in there. That's one thing you can do. But what you just brought up is something that's really important. So you just listed what you would change, but ultimately, who reviews your outputs before it goes out? So when you're using things like a GPT such as Gemini or Claude to generate some kind of communication, who has eyes on it before it gets sent out to teachers or parents? Like that's something we would have to think about, right? So once you start integrating these tools, you have to have a sequence, a protocol around who creates it, who lays eyes on it first and last before it gets approved to be disseminated. Okay. All right, so we're going to move into, we have a small group, so we might just stay in the whole group, a case study. And this is on page 3 in your workbook. So let me scoot to here. Right here. So you can read it here if you want, but it's also going to be up here on the slide. So now we're thinking about AI and assessment and analytics. And this is a lot of ed tech tools are really using AI in assessment and to help you think about where are your learners' strengths, where do they need support, what do teachers need to modify in their lessons, and so on. So this is probably one of the most common tools that schools are using. But let's look at this particular example and think about how this was used effectively and then maybe how it would look in your context, okay? So the principal introduced an AI-powered learning analytics dashboard mid-year. It revealed that 40% of grade 4 students were struggling with fractions, a pattern the class teacher had not flagged, so the teacher didn't notice it or did not bring it to people's attention. The principal used this data to organize targeted teacher PD and a 2-week remediation block. The result, the end of term assessment scores in fractions improved by 18%. Okay, so let's discuss, and I'm going to invite you all to unmute and discuss what made this principal's use of AI effective, what risks or challenges might have arisen, and how would this scenario play out in your school? So let's talk about the first question. What made this principal's use of AI effective? Please unmute.
Um, I think he got the data, and then he didn't just see the data alone. From the data, he saw the 40% students struggling with the fractions, and he went ahead to look for a solution or a way to make use of that data to improve the students' performance on that.
Yeah, thank you for that. And so what were some of the things he did to improve student performance? Henrietta, thank you. You named that he used data to inform his practice, his next steps. And what were those next steps?
It's said here that he organized the targeted teacher program, and then I believe um, a proper training, and maybe look for the right methodology to reach out, find out from the teacher why the students or the method the teacher used in teaching, and then look for a better method that could be used in that.
Right, exactly. So he looked at the data. The teacher didn't notice that there was a real issue. 40% of the class were struggling. So he used that data to think about how to target professional development for his teachers. Maybe the professional development was about how to look at data. Maybe they didn't know how to use a dashboard. And then from there, what does that mean for your instruction? And in addition, he offered something to support the students, a 2-week remediation block, right? So extra support around fractions. And then we see that there were some gains. So let's move to the second question. So what risks or challenges might have arisen with this particular approach?
The teacher might have felt inadequate, and if it's someone who doesn't like taking corrections, well, that won't go well.
Oh,
But
absolutely. So you need to have a culture where it's okay to point out and share publicly that someone needed support. So if the teacher didn't want that kind of feedback and didn't want to be corrective, it could create some tension. Absolutely. Thank you. I see we have some new folks joining us. Welcome. We're just reviewing this short case study around using AI with assessment, and we're moving on to the last question. So how would this scenario play out in your school? So as a school leader, you look at a dashboard and see that a class is really struggling. The teacher didn't bring that to your attention. What would you do? Would this be the same approach? And if so, how would it work?
I guess the teacher would have, without the data that pinpointed the area where the children are having problem,
I hear you. All right. Thank you, Henrietta, for sharing so much. I hope to hear from everybody who's in the space with us at some point today. I'm going to move us along to part 3. So at the beginning of our session, I said this is super important. We really have to think about ethics and equity in AI, okay? We don't have quite enough people to do 4 breakout rooms, so I think I'll do 2 breakout rooms, and you all can discuss 2 of the topics, okay? So in the workbook, this is on page 4, and want you to discuss what this might look like and how you might address it, all right? So room 1 is going to talk about both data privacy and equity and access. In room 2, we'll talk about bias in AI and academic integrity. So you'll look at these scenarios and think about, as a leader, how would you address these issues, okay? So again, you'll need to have the handbook or the workbook open so you can read what these scenarios are. And before I put you in breakouts, what questions do you have? Okay. All right, so breakout room number 1 is going to talk about data privacy and equity and access. And breakout room number 2, bias in AI and academic integrity. And I will come in and check on you. So we'll take about 5 minutes to talk about those 2 scenarios. All right. Rooms are open. Go ahead and join. And let me know if you need help moving into the room. Welcome back. All right, welcome back, everyone. So let's take a minute. Richard, I just saw your message. Were you able to open the handbook yet, or do you need support with that? I'm gonna put it in one more time. So that's gonna be a version you can't edit, so you'll have to make a copy if you want to actually type into the document. Okay. All right, so welcome back. Let's talk about this because I think this is the part that's super critical for us as leaders. We're working with young people, and we have a lot of data on the young people that we serve, and we want to make sure that it's protected. And sometimes with AI things, it can get unruly, and you don't always want to feed AI too much information unless there are certain protections put into place. Okay, so let's look at the first example around data privacy. It says a teacher uses a free iGrading tool that uploads student essays to a third-party server outside of Ghana. So that's not in your local context. It's a third-party server that is getting all of these students' essays. How would you handle that? Or what provisions would you put in place to safeguard your learners? Henrietta, we talked about it a little bit. I know you've been talking a lot, but if you could start us off, I would appreciate it.
Yes, we said that there must be terms and conditions for the work with a third-party vendor. And on one of those things that must be strictly put down and followed is the fact that no information should get outside of the school. It is not allowed to reveal whatever information, whatever he's doing, whatever the result it gets outside the school, it must be related back to the school.
Absolutely. And I think once you develop a policy around using AI for teachers, then people know. So either your school gets a subscription to some grading tool that everyone can use, and you know that there are certain protections built in, or you have guidelines for teachers when they're using a free tool that it must meet the certain criteria, right? Thank you for that. Let's talk about equity and access. So I was sharing that here in Ghana, this is a reality that we are always navigating around who has access to smartphones, who has access to data, who can even connect, depending upon where they're located to Wi-Fi. So in this example, we have students who have smartphones are getting better grades because they're using an AI homework assistant, and students who don't have smartphones are falling further behind. So what kind of policy or guardrails or guidelines would we need to put into place to make sure that it's equitable?
I think that at the beginning of the school year, it should be an obligation that all students, it's a necessity for all students to have smartphones. I think that will make it will not be biased, because some students using smartphone and to improve their grades, and then some without the smartphones. It's not proper.
Yes, and it happens though. So I've worked in many schools that didn't have students who had the same access to resources, right? So there were students who maybe didn't have a phone, they didn't have a computer at home, and they couldn't do some of the tech related tasks that we asked them to do. So one way as a school leader that we built around that and supported them is providing access to either a smartphone or a computer lab at certain
Yeah,
hours so that they were able to use the tools.
yes, then in that case, the school should be the one to provide.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of our colleagues said, like a library. If a school
Mm-hmm.
can provide a library, therefore a school can provide the student with access to smartphones so that those who don't have access at home can benefit during the school period to do their homework. And in that case, they will know they have to program themselves on how to do it.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. All right, let's move to bias and AI. And this one comes up a lot. This is an issue that I was actually just at a conference and they were discussing this at length around algorithms and who creates them and the bias that um, results, right? So you're using a behavioral tracking system and it flags students from one ethnic group at 3 times the rate of others. The vendor, whatever company you're using, claims neutrality and said that's not such a thing. How would you address this? And please, anyone can speak, even if you weren't in this group. So I want to bring us back to that very first question I asked. Remember about a teacher uses AI to generate a lesson. There was actually a factual error in the lesson that a student found in flagged for everyone. There was a factual error in the lesson. And I said, who is responsible for this? The leader, the teacher, or the AI company? And in this case, if there is one ethnic group getting flagged at 3 times the rate of others, that's an issue with the AI company and their software or their program. So they're responsible. How do we address it? How do we hold them accountable? I would say for me as a leader, I would have a discussion with the whoever's over the development of their tracking system, the company or the vendor. I would share that what they're flagging is not reflective of what we're seeing at the school site and ask if they could address this particular algorithm. If they still claim neutrality, then I would have to end the contract, right? Because ultimately, our goal is to serve young people and serve them well. And if one ethnic group is being flagged disproportionately, we're not serving people well, and we're not being equitable. So I would either have them work on addressing whatever the issue is, the bug in their system. And if they're not willing to do that, then I would, cancel the contract and find another vendor. But this is something real too that I mentioned up front, that AI can't really replace human thinking. It can recognize patterns and all of those things, but it's also programmed by people who have their own biases. And so we always have to double check everything it generates for us to make sure that it's true, it reflects our vision, our ethos, our values, and that it's useful, because sometimes what it creates for us isn't useful. All right, so let's move to academic integrity. I think this is the biggest issue for teachers, at least, around AI and the way students are using it right now. So in this particular scenario, a student's essay is flagged as 70% AI generated. The student insists that they only used AI for grammar checking. As a leader, how would you address this issue, or what would you do to provide some guardrails so this doesn't happen?
Is it possible to specify the particular AI tool the students are to use? And again, is there a way to tailor it for the particular need of the school to guard against this copying or being fully AI generated by putting a kind of a command there that it should do only spelling and grammar check. I don't know so much. I'm not that deep in AI, so I don't know. These are the questions that I will want to ask first. So that if we have such situations, then I will say we tell the students or the school has a particular one they use and find another way of guarding against anything that comes from outside that. I don't know.
Absolutely. So I had a colleague do a professional development session for us last August about just this. And his suggestion, which I thought was brilliant, was to create a continuum of when you can use AI and when you can't on an assignment, and how much you can use it, right? So that it was a common practice across the whole school that the teacher said, for this assignment, you can use AI for just what you said, Henrietta, maybe just for correcting grammar. For this assignment, you can use it as a thought partner to help you generate ideas or create a solution. For this assignment, you cannot use it at all. So they have opportunities to use it, because the reality is they're going to use it. So we should create opportunities for them to use it and be clear about what the parameters are. So that's something that's important for leaders to develop with teachers and with students, a policy around academic integrity and what it means to use AI and when it's acceptable and to what extent is acceptable. Yeah. All right. Thank you all for this. Let's move on. Well, I'll pause. What questions do we have about any of these scenarios or in general around ethics and equity when using AI? Okay. So I'll move us along. You can always put questions in the chat as they emerge for you. I just, again, want to be clear about this. AI doesn't make ethical decisions. School leaders do. And it is our job to set the policy, ask the difficult questions, and make sure we are protecting students and staff, especially those who are most vulnerable. So we have to get really clear about the policies, making sure that we are all calibrated on the policies and making sure we're able to hold people accountable to the policies. All right, so the next thing I want you to take a few moments to do is go to page 6 of your workbook. And we're going to do a little assessment around AI readiness based on these 4 pillars. So people, policy, infrastructure, and pedagogy. Okay. So I'll show you the assessment in just a minute. But for people, do your teachers and staff already have AI literacy? Is there a champion or a lead? So do you have someone on staff who's like, they know this, they know it well, they're excited about it, and they can support leading the usage and the implementation of AI? Under policy, do you have or need an AI use policy for students and for staff? So something we just talked about. Infrastructure, what devices, internet access, and platforms are available in your school? That's super important to know. And then pedagogy, how does AI align with how your school believes students learn best? And that's really critical. That will help you determine when students can use it and when they can't, based on what you believe about student learning. Okay, so on page 6, you're going to assess yourself on each pillar. I'm going to open up the workbook just so you can see what it looks like here. So here it is. So just take a minute. 1 is we're not yet started. 2, we're in the early stages. 3, it's in progress. And 4, strong. We're already doing this. So just take a minute and see where you are in relation to these 4 pillars. And then think about your school's biggest AI readiness opportunity. Like based on this, where should we go first? Okay. So I'll give you just a couple minutes to reflect on that. Does anyone need more time? Okay, great. So let's hear from a few of you. We haven't heard everyone's voice yet, and that's okay. You can also, sorry, my dog. Hold on one second. You can also put your answers in the chat. I'm curious to know where you feel like your AI implementation or AI readiness is strong so far. So did any of you choose number 4 for any of the pillars, people, policy, infrastructure, or pedagogy? You can put it in the chat. Who scored 4 for any one of those? Okay, let's go to the other end of this, the continuum. For 1, we have not yet started. So AI literacy for staff and having a lead around that. Who scored a 1 for policy, use policies, for infrastructure, and for pedagogy? Did anyone choose 1 for any one of those pillars?
For AI policy.
Okay, great. So that's your readiness opportunity, right? Is getting clear on setting a policy. Thank you.
Yes, for the people, I chose two
Okay,
AI literacy champions. We are love to
great.
get started. I chose two for that. For the AI policy is one. For
Okay,
the infrastructure, I chose three.
great.
And then for pedagogy, alignment with learning values. Since we're just starting, I chose two for that.
Okay, great. So you have some opportunities here. Policies, people, and pedagogy seem like areas that need support. Your infrastructure sounds pretty established, still progressing, and that's great. Thank you for sharing. Would anyone else like to share?
Okay, for us, people, literacy, and champion, I think it's two. AI policies is one. Infrastructures is three. And pedagogy is two.
Oh, I think you all had the same score or the same assessment. Interesting. Okay, so it sounds like getting clear on policies is kind of where we have a lot of energy right now about our opportunity to improve. Okay, it's good to know. Thank you. Would anyone else like to share? Okay. All right, so let's move along then. So at the beginning, I told you that you will work on creating something, a plan, your AI integration proposal. And I do want to give you time to do that. I don't know that we'll take a full 15 minutes. We'll see how everyone's feeling. You might not need that much time. You might need more time. But there's 5 steps or 5 things to complete in your proposal, and I'll show it to you on the workbook in the workbook in just a minute. But you're going to think about which AI tool or application you want to introduce and why. So this might be for those of you who named needing policy, that might be the thing that you need to focus on. What problem does it address in your school? Who will you need to train or who needs to help you think about this, developing this? What ethical considerations or risks must you plan for? And then always, 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 because I want to make sure we move to action. What is one concrete action step, the first one you'll take within the next 30 days? Okay. So you're going to have some independent time to work on that, and I'm happy to support. You can ask me questions and we can think through it together. But here, it's on page 8. And it's basically, you don't have to use this, but if you want to fill it out here, that's just a tool to help you kind of brainstorm and think about these questions, okay? And we are going to share out, and I would really love to hear from people we haven't heard from yet. So I'm going to invite you to let's start with 10 minutes and see how far we can get to think about these 5 steps, these 5 things, and then we'll come back together, okay? What questions do you have?
Okay. We'll use the workbook, the page 8 of the workbook, right?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Page 8. All right, so I'm gonna set the timer for 10 minutes and then we'll check in to see how far along we got. I'm looking forward to hearing what you all think about as far as how you're gonna move integration in your school. We have about 2 more minutes before we'll start sharing. All right, we have just under a minute left. Does anyone need more time?
Can we have like 3 more minutes?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking. We have 1 more minute left. Hey, I'm going to welcome everyone back.
Yeah.
Hope you got some ideas out. And of course, this kind of work takes much more than 15 minutes to complete, but it's a start, some brainstorming around your AI integration work. So I would love to hear from one or two of you around what you're thinking and what your first concrete action step is going to be. Can we get someone to share, please? Would it be helpful if I modeled a proposal? I would have to talk it out. I didn't type it. Okay, I'm going to do that because of the silence, because I want to move us along. So I'm going to draw on the two examples that were shared around the readiness, and two people shared that an AI policy was really important to create. So that would be my number one. What am I introducing and why? It's an AI policy to make sure that we are protecting our learners, that we are serving people equitably, and that everyone is clear about what is and what is not permitted with AI. That kind of gets to the problem. There's a lack of clarity maybe around what AI tools are permissible, and that could be for both teachers and students. And getting clear about when we're allowed to use AI tools, maybe outside of what the school has selected or period, right? Who would need to be trained or involved? So this is a whole school community issue. So I believe everyone would need to be a part. You would have to get input from teachers and students and possibly parents around what they believe is acceptable AI use. And then everyone, teachers and students, would need to know what is acceptable to use, how they can use it. Again, what are the parameters, guardrails, and guidelines? And you would also need to communicate that very clearly with parents so that they might be involved in like a parent meeting about it. It could be in a handbook that you give to parents or so on. What ethical considerations or risks must you plan for? So again, which vendors, if you choose to partner with an ed tech company that uses AI, you need to know what their protections are for learners and data, making sure that student data is not being shared with a third-party server or outside of your school. You need to make sure that you have a policy around holding both teachers and students accountable if they aren't honoring what is acceptable to use around AI. So again, maybe you're only allowed to use these AI platforms. If you use something else, there is some sort of consequence or way that you will be held to account. And then a first concrete action step within the next 30 days, I would assemble a team and see who's interested in helping to develop this AI policy. So the first thing would be to send a questionnaire asking who's excited about it, what their current literacy is around AI, and gauging people's commitment to start working on a draft proposal. So that is just a tool to help you think about what you might want to do as far as AI integration. You can also think about specifically using a dashboard that looks at student data. You could think about specifically using something like we use at the beginning of our time together with Gemini. What is your policy around using Gemini to create communications? Anything like that. Okay. I hope that's helpful. So as we close out, we have just a few minutes left. I want us to close with a commitment. And just again, I want to underscore that AI is not going to replace great school leaders. It's not going to replace teachers. It's not going to replace high quality student work. But it's really important that school leaders know how to use it because you'll be better equipped to serve your students, support your teachers, and of course, shape the future of education, not only in Nigeria, but worldwide. So this kind of goes to step number 5 in the previous slide, and this is on page 9 in your workbook. Just think about a commitment you're making toward AI integration in your school again, because we want to move to action quickly. We're making it time bound in the next 30 days. And this one I want everyone to share. You can share it in the chat or you can say it out loud, but I want to hear what your commitments are. Henrietta, I know you've done a lot of talking, but can you get us started, please? What's something you're committed to trying in the next 30 days?
This just in line with what we've been saying. I would love to start it with, well, I call it a training, a training for the teachers and get everybody ready to go along with it, just like you mentioned, probably already since we're a bit on it. I won't say the information is just getting to us for the first time. No, we've been trying to it, but I think at this stage is to get off with the training for the teachers.
Love that. Thank you. Can we hear from somebody else, please? Something you're going to try in the next 30 days to support AI integration.
Okay, for me, I think it will not be up to the 30 days, but I would like to say self-improvement because we cannot give what we do not have. And I also wish to ask, it's a sort of question, which AI app is best for reporting and the preparation of lesson notes? So I don't know. I'll start the training first with myself, then within the next 30 days, introduce it to the teachers, and then move it forward.
Thank you for that question. In fact, I have a resource. If you look on, I think it's your last page here, page 9. There's some recommended resources that you can explore that might support you. And then also, we just had a whole institute on using EdTech tools here. And we created a resource for folks around different tools you can use for different things. So there's an AI tool that helps you with differentiating your lessons based on your learners' needs. There are a few with just creating lessons as well. So if you're interested in that, you can just email us here, this email, info@ghascd.org, and I can share that with you. I think in general, I'll say most people have certain preferences, right? Around they start playing with different AI tools and they're like, oh, this one's better. This one makes more sense for me. So I think you have to explore a few and see which one you think works best for your community. All right. We are at time. I want to thank you all so much for showing up, for participating, and I hope that this felt supportive in your leadership journey. And I hope we find opportunities to connect in the future. Have a wonderful evening. And again, if you have other questions, that email that I just shared, you can reach out there. All right. Take care, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Ma.
We're very grateful.
Thank you too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.